Hey, this is the second half of the test review for module 11A. So in this one, we're going to look at domain and range and also evaluating functions, which we actually looked at in a previous unit, but we're going to go into a little bit more depth. So f of x just means a function, and then they give these rules here. And the thing in the parentheses tells you what the x value is. So where it says f, and you can see the x in parentheses here, any numbers that we see in parentheses is the numbers that you're going to substitute into that formula. Let's go to the next slide and then we can work out what this is. Oops. Now, there's actually a couple of different ways you can work this out. One of the ways you can work this out is to try and type in this equation. Now, when we did this in the last unit, any question with an x, we simply change to another letter. So I'm going to type this in, but instead of x, I'm going to put a. And then when I get my slider here, I can just type in which value do I want, which is just 2/3. And notice the value, the function here has actually been already evaluated and it's -2. So that's how we did it previously. And there is another way we can do this as well. And we can actually just type this in exactly how it appears. And we can create a table to find out what the value is. So I'm going to move on to my next line. At the top here where it says plus, I'm going to click on a table. And I need to change this from y into f of x. Now I have to put 1 for the reason on the column here. This says x1, so I have to put f of x1. And then now if I type in the value 2/3, notice it will give you my answer. Now the advantage of doing this in a table is sometimes there's multiple values in our domain, our x values, and then we can just type in each value and you can find the answers pretty quickly. So you don't have to keep moving a slider and you can see multiple values fairly quickly. So these obviously weren't in our question this time, but we are going to see some as we carry on our test review where this is the case. The function g of x equals 5 over the cube root of, 5 cube root of x minus the square root of x over 2. What is the value of g of x? Oh my goodness, this one's a little bit complicated. So I'm going to go ahead and start to write out what this formula is. Now I got to keep looking backwards to see what this is. So 5 times the cube root of x. So we'll start with 5. Now the cube root is not an easy one to get to, so it's always good to review this. Square root's down here. Cube root's over here in functions. So if we go to miscellaneous, click on this here. Now you see the little line here. We can actually type in we want the cube root. And there we go, 5 times the cube root of x minus, and then we got the square root of x over 2. So minus, as soon as I see that fraction, I want to go ahead and click the divide button, and then it will split this up for me. So square root of x, and then I think the bottom of the fraction was 2. I'm just going to check that that looks good. And it says find the value for when x equals 64. Now, as I type this in with x, I'm going to go ahead and just use my table. I'm going to type in this time, this is g, so g of x1. And then I can type in my value 64, and you can see that it's 16. If you prefer, you can just type this in with, say, a, and then set a equal to 64. And that will also get you your answer. H of x is negative x squared plus 4. What is h of negative 4? Oops. And I just clicked on the wrong x. So let me quickly get back to where I need to be. There we go. So we have it on this slide here just to make it a little easier to see. So I can do it by a table. I'm going to do that. I'm just going to type in the equation, but I'm going to type it in properly. So negative x at the squared is there. And then plus 4, and then in my table plus table, type in negative 4, and actually I forgot to change it. See, there's nothing here right now, so I need to remind it, hey, look, I'm using h this time, so I've got to put h of x1, and then it will work the answer out for me pretty quickly. So a lot of this is just really copying and making sure you're copying accurately, and knowing some of those little steps to get to that answer. Now, on this one here, we do have multiple values for our domain. So if we plug these numbers into this formula, which y values do we actually get out? So that's what we're going to try and find out. It says, what is the range? Range is the y values for this. So I'm going to go to my table. It does tell me that f of x is negative 3x minus 2. So I'm typing that in. And I'm going to set up my table. I have to tell it which function I'm using. So I'm using f of x this time, so f of x1. And then these values here, I can just type in down the side, -3/2. I just use the slash symbol on my keyboard. You can also use the divide button, 0. Just using my down arrow here to get my other values. And then we can see what our values are here. I've got 2.5, -2, -5, and -14. So let me go back, and there we go. We can see it straight away. -2.5, we might have to change into a fraction if we're not sure, but I certainly saw -2, -5, -14. Well, actually, there is 2 that have -2. So we would have to know that -2.5 is -5/2. And the easiest way to do that is type in 2.5. Click on the fraction to decimal button, and then it will change it to 5/2. And I just want to make sure that that was the correct answer. Well, they actually have -5/2. So that makes me wonder, did I actually type in this question correctly? I'm just going to quickly check. -3x minus 2. -3x minus 2. It said -3/2. And it said -3/2 here. So I think this is just a typo. I think this is supposed to be 5/2. And hopefully we can fix that before you guys see this. Whoops, let me move that away. Given the function h of x is -5x minus 1, find the value of x when h of x equals 19. Now, this one is slightly different. This one doesn't say that x is 19 like the other ones. It says that the function is 19. So actually, this goes more to a previous section. I want to know when -5x minus 1 equals 19. So what I'm trying to solve is this. Now, you can actually work these out by hand, and one of the things we did that in the last unit. What we're also going to look at, for particularly when we do the retest, is you can actually do these questions using the Desmos calculator as well. And as you can see here, we have a nice little picture drawn for us, and literally all we have to do is look on the x-axis to find out where it crosses, and that's going to be your answer. So -4, that is the answer to this question. And you can check this if you wanted to. Let me type in the equation, h of x equals -5x minus 1. I will add a table. I will change this to h of x1. And then we think the answer is -4. So let me go ahead and type in -4. And you can indeed see that you do get 19 now. So we've confirmed that answer. Word problem, the function c of x equals 17.5x minus 10 represents the cost in dollars of buying x tickets to a concert with a $10 coupon. How much does it cost to buy 5 tickets? So the reason that this is minus 10 is you have to pay $10 less because you actually have a coupon. So this could be a good little word problem. Also, this means here then 17.5x means that each ticket is $17.5 or $17.50. How much does it cost to buy 5 tickets? Well, I'm going to use that equation. I got c of x, c of x equals 17.5x minus 10. And then if I go to my table, I can just plug in 17.5. Whoops, did forget to change this. That's why nothing appeared. So c of x. Oh, doesn't seem to like c of x. Okay, perhaps because it's capital C. Let me try that. Still fairly new to some of these Desmos. Doesn't seem to like C at all for this question. Okay, oh, I'm missing the 1. That's the reason it doesn't work. There we go. So sometimes it's better just to make sure. That doesn't seem to be the right answer. I'm kind of checking the answer in my head. I'm just curious as to why that's not actually even the right answer. How much does 5 tickets cost? Well, it would help if I could read. There we go. So how much does 5 tickets cost? And then now you can see the answer. So that would mean $77.50. And we got 2 more to do. Now, looking at the picture for this one, here's the function, and it asks you to find f of -2. So remember f of x. So this is the x value. So on the x-axis, I go to -2, and then I read to the graph. Once I get to the graph, I read across and see what the y value is. So for this one here, I can see that it's 2. Now, not that it asks it, but just so we can practice. If it asked us to do f of 2, then I would go to 2 on the x-axis. I would read up until I get to my graph, and then I would read across to the y-axis. So f of 2 would be 5. Not that it asked us to do that for this question. Now on this one here, it's slightly in reverse. It says find x if f of x equals 0. So we don't know the x value. We're going to try and work it out, but we know that the y value is 0. So on the y-axis, that's 0 here. So this time I'm reading across to find where my function is. And it looks like if I choose at -4 for my x value, then I do end up with 0 as my y value. And that should be it. Few different little questions there. Just make sure you're familiar with using that table function, or if you're going to change it into the method we used previously, just don't use x or y, or else those questions won't work. And that concludes the video for 11A.2.